Hey everyone, Jai here, one of the co-founders of Deepline. I'm going to walk you through how we helped one of our customers with a pretty hairy challenge here of going from permits to people. The use case is a common one that we hear of permit data or public information about construction or real estate projects. Taking that information, which is a little bit disconnected from like how a company might describe themselves on LinkedIn, and then we're going to walk through all the steps that we took to get the right information, the right people for the team to reach out to. So what we started with permits and what we ended up with emails and phone numbers for qualified folks at those companies. Awesome. So why is this problem actually hard? So you're starting with a permit, and that typically is a LLC or a holdco. Real estate, it's especially bad. So you might have one like this Discomfort PropCo where it is just a LLC for the particular project. How do we map this back to the correct company? And this was a pretty hard one that the system was able to figure out. And then you might have ones where companies merged or joined together, or where it's a specific subsidiary of a larger real estate investment trust. So each of these, you start with a permit, and now we're trying to get to the contact of the person who would be in charge of the facility or project itself for this particular customer's problem. And so what we did is we gave the permit data to Deepline and said, for each property, find the operating company, the right person, find the titles. We did have to give a little bit of guidance here on one particular step, and I'll show you how we did that. And then I said use subagents for everything, so it goes a little faster. And so where did we need to add a little bit more context? This title step is where we added more steering. So if we break it down, what did Claude Code Deepline actually do? First, it took all the LLCs and said, how do we map them to a particular company? I can show you how we would solve that in a second. And then it asked for approval on titles. And I don't actually know anything about this industry. I don't know anything about real estate or healthcare or anything. So I'm not going to be able to figure this out, but the LLM actually should be able to. And how we help the LLM figure out what to do is we use our free company titles endpoint. And so this one works by giving it a company name or LinkedIn, and it will return all the titles that we have a contact for at that company. So it's kind of saying, we're not going to charge you until you get the real contact information. But if you just want to know what titles are there, you can get that and then use that information to figure out what's the most useful one for my use case. And that's what we did here. So this should actually be 1 cent, but we resolve the LLCs to a company. Then we get every title at that company with the LLM rank and score the particular titles for that particular building type. So like hospitals, data centers, and schools all have different kind of optimal titles. And we don't have to keep track of that. The system's going to figure out for that particular subset, what's the right one to look into. So we got about 70% coverage with this LLC-to-parent company. There were another 30%, and we have kind of routes to get this, but we didn't do it for everyone. It's just saving the fallback here. Claude Code did most of the work here. And then lastly, find the actual humans, contacts, emails, validate them. This is pretty cut and dry compared to everything else. So here's an example, a real one. So we have on the easier side, Lee Memorial Health System. Here we have Lee Memorial Health System. The operator is Lee Health, and then who to call, Director of Plant Operations. So we got the phone number, the email validated, the title wanted Director of Plant Ops, and that's what we found. So that felt like the right person here. Here we have a data center which had the operator name in the company name, but it was just one subset of a much longer LLC name. We were able to map that back. This one is also interesting because it's a big multinational. So we also want to add a geographic ranking into that score of who's the best person to call, because the person in Europe or APAC is probably not the right person for here. And then lastly, we had one where we couldn't get the property owner. And there were a couple condominiums in this data set where it's hard to know actually who owns it. And so what we were able to find is for public companies, you can map it back to a entity that way. So we just let Claude Code and Deepline agent, but the subagent went and found the Hillsborough County Property Appraiser for that particular location, cross-checked SEC EDGAR for the SPV, and found the parent in the REIT for Flagship Healthcare Properties. So that's how we got from this LLC to the owner, just going through those particular step numbers. We had started with 200 permits. We got the companies running them for about 87%. And then we got, of the top 50, we got like exact title matches that we expected for about 31 of them, emails, phone numbers. So overall, we spent about $13. Started with inspecting the data that I provided, built the seed CSV, went through all the titles. I think this part's a little interesting, so I'll touch on that. And then it ranked the titles in the playgrounds and pulled the contact data. So if we look at the title ranking, so each row here is a permit that was pulled. We have the facility type. And then here we have the Google search to go from the company name to the LinkedIn company. So that's step one. So the first thing it actually does is we use our endpoint to get all the titles at the company. So we go to this LinkedIn and we say, what are all the unique titles that we could possibly find at this company or that we have in our data set? And you can see director, asset management, construction, COO, project management coordinator. Which one of these is probably or most likely to be the decision maker for our particular use case? And since I don't know anything about that, we're going to let Claude Code score and rank each of those. So who's most likely for this particular one? We put in a bunch of context on what would happen. What I would actually do here is upload a bunch of examples of people that we know are good. So if we can get information from partners or the customer of, hey, here's the last 100 deals, here's the title of the person, that's going to be the fastest way to get to a good outcome here. I just kind of let the system figure it out, and I'm pretty happy with the outcome. Generally, examples are going to be the best part here. I just didn't have any for this particular project. So yeah, it ranked capital projects manager as the top one, director of construction, senior property manager, asset manager. So all of those are potential titles, but we're just going to go and rank them, and then we can go down the list until we find one that we are happy with. So that's the difference here. We don't get charged for this. So this entirely was free. And then when we find the title that we like, we can filter by that exact match title and get the contact information for that person. So here, I'm going to show an example here. Awesome. So here you can see how many credits we used across all of the different tasks. Perfect. So we have the results here. If we found someone with a target title at that company, or if we found, and then we have the email, phone number, phone source, we have the trestle validation. And quick reminder on what we did here. We used Google to find the actual company name or the LinkedIn companies for the LLCs. We took every title at that company from the free endpoint, filtered and scored for the ones that we thought were the best fit. And all of this was done in Claude Code, just kind of iterating and talking to the platform. And then we scored the time we got contacts. So this is the prompt again. Focus on the goal, the outcome, what you're trying to get to, give it all the information and context you have. You can give it more guidance and steering afterwards, but this generally is going to point you in the right direction. It's going to run small samples and you can put cost limits. If you have questions like this or want to walk through a tough problem, you're always welcome to join office hours. Otherwise, looking forward to hearing from you in the comments.